Hi everybody, in this video we will go over the cookie order master order free response question, and we're going to do part A, just some hints and some reminders on how to do the coding. So before we go into the hints, let's go over what's in the problem. So first we have this class called cookie order. So cookie order is going to have a constructor that allows us to build a cookie order object. It's going to take in a string for its variety, so variety might be like the type of cookie that it is, and also how many boxes of that cookie order we have in this order. So this cookie order object also has two accessor methods. One is getVariety, that's going to return a string that represents the variety of the cookie order, or one might say the type of cookie that it is. We have another accessor method called getNumBoxes, which will return an integer for the number of boxes that are in this cookie order. So if we scroll down to the rest of the problem, there's an additional class called MasterOrder. MasterOrder has a data field, and it's a list or array list of cookie orders. What are cookie orders? Well, those are just what we went over. So it's like this object that we just went over. The data field is holding an array list of those objects, and the array list name is orders. So the MasterOrder class has its own constructor, and all it's going to do is just initialize the list orders to make it a new array list of cookie orders. It also has an addOrder method which will add a cookie order to the list. So it takes in a cookie order object as a parameter, and it's going to add that cookie order to the list orders. Next, it's going to have a method called public int getTotalBoxes, which it says right here, it returns the number of boxes, it returns the sum of the number of boxes of all the cookie orders. And that's what we are going to do in this problem. So for a little more detail, it says the getTotalBoxes method computes and returns the sum of the number of boxes of all cookie orders. If there are no cookie orders in the master order, the method returns 0. So we have to complete this method. Now, where do we find all the cookie orders? Well, that's going to be found in our data field called orders. So basically, the purpose of this problem is to go through the entire list of orders and basically grab the number of boxes from each of the orders and then add them all together. So here's some things to keep in mind. The name of our list is orders, so we will definitely need to use that. We will need to go through this entire list, and since it is made of cookie order objects, let's try to figure out how to figure out the number of boxes. Well, let's go back to the cookie order class. Oh look, we have a method that returns the number of boxes, so we will definitely need to use this method as well. So these are pretty much the main hints for part A. There isn't much more strategy to this other than what I told you. Most of this problem is just trying to remind yourself of how to loop through a list and grab items and then call the method on those items. So what you'll need to do is, I would try this problem out right now. And if you forgot how to do some of the coding, then I would look at some of the coding hints that I'm about to mention. So try this problem out now. And if you are ready for some of the coding hints, we will go over them. In 3, 2, 1, let's do that. So, again, if you think you knew how to do the problem, I would have paused the video and just tried the problem out before going on. But if you're ready to go on, here's some coding reminders. So, these coding reminders are how to loop through arrays or array lists. Now in this case we're doing array lists, but I thought it would be good to remind you of both because there's a lot of similarities. So, in each of these problems, we are going to set all items in the list or array to a value by looping through the array or the array list. So, in this example over here, array is an array, and if I go for int k equals 0, k is less than or equal to array.length k plus plus, this will represent the positions in the array, 0, 1, 2, 3, all the way up until array.length minus 1. Speaking of which, this for loop you can actually write like this if you would like, with it saying k is less than or equal to array.length minus 1, because the last position in the array is always going to be length minus 1. So then you just grab the item of the array, so array square bracket k represents the kth item in the array, and we're going to set that to become 3. In an array list, it's a little bit different. So we do a very similar loop, and then instead of saying dot length, we would say the name of the list dot size. Once again, you can always say k is less than or equal to the name of the list dot size minus 1, and that's totally fine too, because again, the last item of a list is going to be size minus 1. So instead of saying array square bracket k, in an array list, we have to use the set method. So we would just say list.set, and k is the position of the item that we want to set to a new value. So we would say the position number, comma, and then the item we want to change it to, which is 3.14. So this line pretty much does the same thing as this line. It's just we're changing the value of each item in the list to 3.14 instead of 3. Alright, I'm going to go on to another example in 3, 2, 1. So this is another example of looping through an array or array list, except this time we're going to grab all the items in the list, storing them in variables and then printing them out. So here we have an array. Again, we do for int k equals 0, k is less than array.length k plus plus, or you could say k is less than or equal to array.length minus 1, whichever you would prefer. Then what you do is you just grab the item of the array. You say array square bracket k, that will grab the kth item of the array. And then, because this is an array of booleans, array bracket k will be a boolean value. So we'll just store that in a boolean variable. So my variable name, I just called it a. It doesn't matter what you call it. So I'll say boolean a becomes array square bracket k. And then we'll print out that item. So this is how to grab an item from an array, store it in a variable, and then print out the value of that variable. For an array list, it's pretty much the same thing. Again, the for loop, the for loop is pretty much the same, going from 0 to less than list.size or less than or equal to list.size minus 1. So this particular list holds doubles or decimals. So instead of saying array square bracket k, you would just say the name of the list dot get and then the position. So in this case, it would be list.get k. That stuff right there, list.get k. Since the items of the list are doubles, we would make our variable a double, and then we could go ahead and print that out. If you would like, you could use lowercase or capital D for double. It doesn't matter really, because Java pretty much automatically changes that over. The only thing you have to keep in mind is when you do an array list, when you declare the array list, the type inside the angle brackets, so here and here, the type inside the angle brackets must be an object name, and that's why you have to capitalize the name inside the angle brackets. Anywhere else, you can do it, but you don't have to. So that's pretty much it for that example. I'm going to go on to another example in 3, 2, 1. Oh, by the way, this does the same thing, grabbing all the items in an array or array list. You could actually do the same thing by using a for each loop. So this is accomplishing what we just did, same purpose. So this for each loop says for every Boolean value, and we'll just make x as our placeholder. So for every Boolean value in the array, we just say our Boolean variable is going to become x, which is the value, and then we print a. So this example means the exact same thing as the one up here. Similarly, you could do pretty much the exact same thing for an array list. So this is an array list of doubles, so you could say for every decimal y in the list, or you can capitalize the D in double, y is going to be that value from the list. So we'll store that in the variable and then print out the variable. Just like for x, x is the item of the array that we're on, so we'll just store that in a variable. Let me go on to the next example. Actually, I don't need to go on to any more because the rest is for part B. So take this information. At least one of these examples will help you with how to do part A, and that's pretty much it. Go ahead and go on to the other videos for the solutions to problems along with hints to this problem part B. Thank you.